I'm ready to slash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I have one of my favorite people at NHRL here with me today, which is Alicia Garnache, who is a member of Team Shreddit and also a member of Team Horizon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here.
I'm excited to have you on here. So we can definitely talk about a lot of things, and that's going to include some random questions from people on the internet that were thrown out today that I feel like asking. So we'll get into that. But the first thing that I want to talk about really quick is, how was for you the experience at BattleBots with World Championship 7? Like Horizon is probably one of the coolest robots that I've ever seen. It was a hard thing for me because I think it has such amazing potential to do some really special things, and I'm hoping to see it dialed in the future because I just think that the design is amazing. But just kind of talk about that experience of being there.
Yeah, I guess I can tell you the story of how I joined Horizon. My brother, because that's where it starts. So my brother Peter, of course, way into combat robotics, had been on Horizon prior. They were just starting to form as a team. And then I think he had actually met them all inside a restaurant at the last BattleBots competition. Anyways, he was home for Christmas and having a meeting with everybody. And I do a lot of like social media marketing and stuff for my job. And he was like, "Hey, can you come in here? These guys need some advice." And I was like, "Okay." So I go in and then gave my advice, and then lo and behold, joined the team. I was like, this is fun. Woo. Did not have a ton of combat robotics experience. I had built robots in high school and, of course, all the marketing stuff. So I decided to fly out to help film our application video, which was very exciting. And then Peter last minute got sick. So I had never met any of these people in person. And I flew across the country from New York to Los Angeles and met everybody from the team and filmed the application video, stayed at Alon's house. And we all were like crashed there, and it was a very interesting experience. But BattleBots was awesome. Such a great group of guys. And Price, the other girl, it's such a great design. It was such a great time to see everybody kind of come together as a team because me coming from across the country, everybody kind of came from these different areas with different specialties. And it was really, really cool to kind of see everybody start kind of turning and working. It was a really, really interesting BattleBots experience. I'd never, done like the 12-hour filming days, and it was like a giant adult summer camp almost. But honestly, it was like the best 2.5, 3-ish, I don't even know how long it was, weeks of my life. It was super fun to get to know everybody. And really fun to see the robot actually run. And I know they've probably said this a bunch, but we really couldn't actually test it until we got into the ring because it was so big. We could only either spin up or drive. So yeah, definitely will be dialed in a lot more in the future. And if you guys watched the footage of the fights from Proving Grounds, they did really, really well. And I'm super excited. I was sad I couldn't be there to watch the Proving Grounds fights, but they're doing really well. I'm very excited for the next season.
That is awesome to hear. Now, you said about like you had some prior experience with robots, but you weren't really like into it at the level that Peter is. And I think for any of us who are peripherally around robot builders, at some point someone convinces us to build one ourselves. So tell me about that story of frustration.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's really funny. So I started, I actually went to Peter's first NHRL. It was like May, I think, last year. It was a long time ago. It's when I first met the Shredded guys too. And a great time. It was really fun to see kind of the full community and start to get to know people a lot more. Um, but then yeah, as we were working on Horizon, I was like, okay, full attention, like has to go to the heavyweight. I'm gonna go to Norwalk. I took a ton of pictures actually while I was there of a bunch of different people, pit crewed for some of the Shredded guys and just kind of like helped around where I could. But after the heavyweight season, I was like, all right, I'm gonna build my own. And I had a dream actually about this robot, which is still gonna be built. It's actually going to be a 12 instead of a 3. I had a dream that I was competing at Norwalk with a gingerbread robot. So there will be a gingerbread robot at some point. But I had told my brother, I was like, yeah, I'm going to make a gingerbread undercutter. And he's like, all right, cool. Or I can give you one of my kits for Christmas. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like less trial and error, because I don't have all the engineering background. I was like, okay, maybe a kit is going to be easier. He sent everything to me without instructions and not quite all the parts. I did not have a soldering iron. I bought one on Amazon. It ate itself. Like it was a lot of bumps in the road. Like I actually don't know where it is because I think I threw it out, but literally the soldering iron tip like bent into a hook. And I was like, oh gosh, like I don't know what I'm doing. So I think one of the questions was like the 3 things I wish I would have learned before going into combat robotics, which I think somebody asked online. But that I think it's actually G because he taught me a lot. He taught me how to solder. He taught me how to do a lot of the bot electronics, how to pair the controller. It was very chaotic. I knew it was going to be chaotic when I started with the kit, and that's why I chose frustration because I was like, I got to pick a derivative of ablation, and I was like, I know robots are frustrating. Like I will be frustrated in this, so I was like, let's choose frustration. And then that definitely described like my entry into robotics. I would like look at like, oh, which like solder had the least ship time, or like I didn't even go in with like a wrench that I needed to like wrench down the like bolt for the weapon. There was a lot of things that I was missing. I now have nice setup behind me and have acquired a lot more robotics things. But yeah, my first robot was definitely a little janky, and it was like a week or 2 before the competition. So yeah, definitely it was a very interesting learning experience is how I can say it nicely.
Yeah, so note to self, don't buy a soldering tool on Amazon. That's
It
the
was like
lesson
it was
there.
like $5. It was looking back, like I should have known. The minute I turned it on, the thing turned like black and started bending, and I was like, I don't think it's supposed to do this. It like oxidized immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds probably bad. I've not
No,
used one before, but that seems like not what's supposed to happen.
it's definitely not what's supposed to happen. Got a lot of lessons on what you should and should not expect. So yeah, it led to a very chaotic first competition. But definitely lots of learning opportunities.
Yes, yes, that is for sure. I am just curious though, that with this potential gingerbread robot, then what would its name be? If you have to come up with a something that ends in TION, what would its name be?
Oh, okay. No, so that one, it doesn't have to be related to ablation. That one's
Okay.
going to be its own separate. That one's going to be like a 12-pound. The ablation was only just because it was a kit bought from Peter. So it was like the Peter bar. So I was like, I got to pick an ablation. But I don't actually know. It's the longest robot that I've thought of. And I really don't know that I have a name yet. Um, I don't know, because all of the names like end up sounding weird. Like maybe I'll just name it Gingerbread Man because that's like, or Gingerbread Robot. Like if anybody has any ideas for names, please let me know. I've thought about like Gingerbread Slam, but I'm not sure like I don't know if it lives up to like the essence that frustration is. Like it was so perfectly named that I'm like just kind of struggling figuring out what I'm gonna name it because I feel like it has to be as good. So yeah.
Yeah, I will have to see if I can come up with any names on my own. I am very good at coming up with names. The building part is the part that I have to learn. So we'll see how that goes.
I know. Yeah, that's me too. Now I'm like starting from scratch. I'm like learning CAD. I'm like, oh, how do you like extrude this? So I feel like it's its own it's its own set of challenges, but really fun.
Yes, I would definitely say so. Now let me grab one of these random questions from the gallery here. And one of them that I have to ask is, how would you steal a robot from a combat robot event, and which one would you steal?
Okay, so I feel like it would have to be one of the Peter Bar kits. And I did think about this because any other robot, like it would be really hard because you'd be like, oh, okay, like like it would be really, really hard and really noticeable. But a Peter Bar kit, like they all look similar. So I would have to like enter one that's like very just like the white bars with like white on the sides or something that like other people have, and then just like switch out the top plate and be like blink. I feel like that would be the easiest way because like they all look so similar. I mean, now people are starting to innovate, but like the first competition, there were like several orange ones and they all came from Peter's printer. Um, so they were all the same TPU and the same color. So yeah. And I did a lot of the graphics for the different people using Peter bars, like elation, gyration, like all of those. I did the vinyl for them. So I very easily could have just been like,
I have an alternate suggestion. I think the best way is to find one of the robots that has eyes or a face and do a two kids in a trench coat situation and just put it on your head with like a big trench coat and be like,
That would actually be funny. I feel like that would be funny. I don't think you could get away with stealing any robots though, because people know what their robots are like, and the electronics on the same. Like even the Peter Bar kits, like everybody uses slightly different stuff. So yeah, I do like the trench coat idea. I feel like I gotta find somebody's like eyed robot and just like walk around with it.
just put
I feel
paws
like
on
that'd
your
be kind of
head,
funny.
like paws could fit right
Like,
up
oh, I'm
there.
just wearing a big hat. Here we are. Nothing to see here. What?
Exactly.
Caddy? Nobody. What?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this gingerbread man idea though, because I am definitely one of those that appreciates any food or food adjacent themed robots. So I think this could be a really great idea.
Yeah, I feel like it would be funny. I don't know. Honestly, this one I don't think will be very competitive, but I don't know. You never know. Sometimes ones that you don't think are going to be super competitive end up doing well. So, I won't like count any chickens, but I'm thinking probably like new bot Norwalk next year is kind of when I'm going to get it done. I'm actually using Peter's new motors, which is very exciting. So, the prototype ones. So I'll probably build it, and then the goal would be to like take it to Norwalk and like test it maybe in like a grudge match before I actually like submit it to Norwalk for the competition. Just because there's a lot of scary 12s right now. So maybe I'll have to wait till the new bot Norwalk and people bring their new ones that have never been there before. But yeah, it'll be very exciting.
There are a lot of scary 12s. There's now at least three 12s just from the state of Ohio that are very scary. So yeah, it's quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yes. So let me see. What other fun questions do I have here? Um, let's see. What is your ideal dream competitive robot coming from Mr. Evan Arias?
Ooh, I mean, I think the dream one is actually the one like that we've been talking about, the like gingerbread one, mostly because like it actually came from a dream. I normally don't dream, so it was just weird that I like dreamt of fighting a combat robot. Like I think I just got so immersed that I started dreaming about it. But yeah, I think that one will be like, I love like the fun, the branding side of things because that's what I do for my day job. So I think that one will just be like super fun, like super Christmas themed. Maybe I'll come in like a giant inflatable costume, probably not, but that would be funny, maybe for a picture. But yeah, definitely that one, just because it'll be like a fully immersive theme.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm on board with it. So I'm also, really curious because it's funny. I think about this question, and I mean, these days, I think combat robotics are it's extremely diverse, especially at NHRL, but it's still noteworthy to say that like there's a lot of young girls who may not think that robotics is something that they can do, but when they see someone like you out there doing it, it really makes a difference to them to say like, hey, look at her, like I can do that too. I mean, you got to meet my daughter at the Maynor walk, and like she mentioned these things. Does it make you feel good that you're part of that crew that's like blazing a trail for these younger people that want to do this someday?
Yeah, I feel like I mean, that's the part that I love about robotics and just STEM in general. And when I had done like first robotics in high school, that was a huge part of it, was doing these, outreach events where like we would go to a children's museum and we would bring a robot and we would like teach all these kids about like how to drive or how to program like a Lego Mindstorm. And I think it's really important for kids of all ages, and it's more integrated in the school system now. But I think it's really important for them from like a young age to be able to see like robotics, engineering, like some of the STEM education stuff as careers. I actually started going to college as an engineer. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then had actually faced a lot of people telling me that I couldn't be an engineer because I was a girl, like my fellow classmates, which just was not fun. And then I found marketing and brand management, and I was like, okay, this is fun. Like business is fun too. But I never lost that spark for engineering. And I really wish I had had somebody who would have come alongside me and been like, no, like they're lying. Girls can be engineers. Like girls can do it. And I mean, that exists and that's there, but I think now it's more prevalent. And one of the things I'm really excited to do is talk to these kids at events. Like when the tours go through, like stop and be like, oh my gosh, this is my robot. This is how it works. Like take the time to kind of show and educate them. Just because, like, even like young boys too, like just everybody in general. I think it's so important. And I did some like school board petitioning and things like that when I was in high school to like increase STEM education in the like community that I came from. Because it was a lot more sports focused, a lot more like theater focused. But STEM wasn't as big of a thing. So it's definitely a personal passion. I'm passionate about STEM education almost as much as I am about robotics. But yeah, I think it's, if I can like impact one kid to be like, oh my gosh, this looks so cool. Like, how did she actually do it? Or like teach a kid how to do that. Like, I think that's what combat robotics is like, really makes it worth it. Like destroying another robot is fun. But inviting other people to do the sport with you makes it, the combat robotics of tomorrow, and makes people bring these interesting robots and kind of innovate. Like kids' minds are crazy and they're so imaginative, and society, once you get older, you kind of start to lose some of that. So I think, yeah, I think it's really good to kind of show them like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. That's why you get like, these 12, 13-year-olds who are like whooping adults butts in the combat robotics circle, because they really are so imaginative and they have that like childlike curiosity that I think sometimes like I try to get back to. But yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I'm also curious just with your thoughts, because I mean, I know that you're new to building at NHRL, but you're not like completely new to the scene because obviously, you know, your brother's been doing it and stuff like that. And I think that just there's a lot of really special things stemming from what's going on in NHRL right now. I mean, there's starting to be more national recognition with what just happened with the Today Show and the, you know, the New York Living show that Evan and Henchman Sam were on. I mean, like all of these things. And I think that Norwalk is such a great example because I can't think of any competition where you have people like Ray Billings, who is a legend in combat robotics and BattleBots, fighting in the same competition as brand new builders that have never done this before. I just think that that's amazing and just a really great way of showing people like, you don't have to be intimidated by this. Like you can do this too. You know, what do you think about all of that and kind of what we see going on right now in the sport?
I mean, listen, I think growth is so exciting. And I'm really excited to kind of see how their exhibition in California goes. I think Norwalk has started to scale and we've seen it kind of go from like the Day Street days to now like the what NHRL is, which is this like crazy stream. Like you join and it's like you're literally streaming like this professional show. And it's just such a special experience, even going as a competitor. I've been to several other competitions and like Norwalk definitely is like set apart, just in the way that everything is put together. I'm really excited for them to expand. Coming from my prior robotics experience was something that was national and based in like the elementary school, middle school, and high school system, and then community teams as well. So anybody who knows first, like knows it's like a national organization. And I really hope that Norwalk becomes that big, and really has the opportunity to scale and to really like, I don't know, like set up these different qualifying events across the country so people don't always, you know, have to, it's expensive to fly. Like I know people come from across the country to come to Norwalk because it's so special. But I think really it would be really awesome if they could grow and kind of have these different hubs, like one in Chicago, one in Texas, one in LA, like all of these different hubs where they can invite people to kind of come to a competition where they have like this set of rules, this structure, this like arena structure, even. Like I think sometimes when you go to these different competitions, again, I haven't been to tons of them, but sometimes the rules differ a little bit. You have slightly different like arenas. There's ones, and I've not fought in one yet, where like the floor opens up and you like drop in. And I mean, I don't know how I would drive in that. Like, I like the floor to stay where it is. Thank you. But yeah, I think it'll be really exciting to see how they kind of scale nationally. And I think we're starting at a really good time. I think next year, with the amount of growth we've had this year, like they've had to put caps on registration, which hasn't happened before. I think next year will be really pivotal in kind of seeing like how it will actually grow and change. And I think that they like really have the support of the builders, and if they can kind of tap into like these builders who have experience in the community but also like building different like national almost like franchises or like a national like competition like scaled events, I think that will be really key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew you were the right person to ask that question to because you have the marketing brand management mind. And you know, like I think very much the same way where I'm like, I can see these opportunities and you know, ways to kind of make this bigger and get the word out. And I mean, there's so many good things that like I think it will intrigue a lot of people who maybe weren't aware of combat robotics or you know thought, hey, there's just BattleBots, you know, like there's so much more. I think it's noteworthy bringing up, I actually saw somebody who had posted in one of the forums that had not watched NHRL previously, and
Oh, I know, I
happened.
saw that too.
Yeah,
They were like, guys, I just discovered this. It's BattleBots, but smaller robots. Did anybody know? And I was like, oh, like I feel so, I was like, oh no, like yes, like a lot of people knew, but there are people who don't. And especially like going to this last proving grounds like last week, I think, when I was in Vegas for the licensing show, woo. I went to Proving Grounds and it was so funny because so many people had only ever seen BattleBots. And I was like, oh guys, like next weekend, watch like NHRL. There's tons of robot builders. You'll see like Jameson Go, you'll see like all these different people competing, not at BattleBots, but with their own robots. Like you get to see so much more creativity. And I'm hoping a lot of them chimed in and like watched it. But yeah, I told like 25 people about it and they were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, what? So yeah, I love that. I love like seeing it grow and kind of, I feel like right now it's still almost like word of mouth. Like you see it and then you talk to somebody else and they're like, oh my gosh, I love robots. That sounds so cool. Or you go out and talk to the fans or people who are watching NHRL, like actually at the event and all the spectators. And it's a lot of times it's people who are new and then they're like, oh my gosh, I want to build a robot myself. So yeah, I'm excited to see even what they come out with the academy and kind of some different things that they're working on. So very, very excited to see where it'll go in the future.
yes. And I mean, where else do you see a robot like Hot Wings or like Clyde and like not only see those robots, but see them do so well in the tournament? I mean, like it's just you can't get that anywhere else. Like not even at BattleBots can you get something like that. And so I just think it's amazing, and I hope that more people pay attention to it.
Yeah, I think it's a much lower barriers to entry. And yeah, you just get to see so many creative things, like even the box robot or like, I don't know, like there's just always a new interesting robot that somebody brings that you're like, that's interesting. Even like the drone this time, like I was like, what the heck? You're gonna like fight a drone? How does that work? Like how I saw the like little long stick that people are rocking, going back and forth trying to hit it. I'm like, Spitfire, like what the heck are you doing? So I feel like, I don't know, every time you go, there's always somebody who comes up with some wacky idea, or they're like, let me put a beater bar on the top of a robot like this. And you're like, okay, would that work? And then it does. And you're like, all right, that's neat, cool, wonderful job.
I
But
mean,
yeah, that's what I love about robotics.
yeah, as I always like to say, creativity breeds more creativity because you have to be creative to try and find a solution to beat that other creative thing that someone came up with. And I mean, I think for me, always the more creativity, the better.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree.
Yes. Well, awesome. I mean, I'm really looking forward to whenever this gingerbread robot happens. But in the meantime, I'm happy to, see you there with frustration. I mean, at this point, do you plan on going back again this year?
Yeah. Okay. So unfortunate timing. So this weekend, I actually had my sister's graduation and or her graduation party. So I was supposed to be in Chicago. And then because I had COVID, I ended up staying here. So I just like watched the Norwalk stream and was like, woo woo. And then I actually have my best friend's wedding in August. So I will not be able to attend the August one, which is again really sad. I'm super sad. But I should be there in the September one. I don't think I'll qualify. I mean, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Frustration's a lot more dialed in. I actually have the new one right there. I finished building it before this competition, before I knew that it was my sister's grad party. But yeah, I plan to be back again this year, for sure.
Well, I'll be there in September. So if neither of us qualifies, grudge match.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Listen, I had like I had not replaced my Switch the last time and it caused me to lose 2 matches. Technically 3 because I was a dumb person and did not switch the Switch to a new Switch. So the whole robot has been redesigned. I've made a couple adjustments. I'm super excited. So, and now I have 2 full working robots, which is great. So definitely 10 out of 10 will grudge match anybody. Maybe not anybody. I will definitely grudge match you. I don't know that I would want my robot to be melted, but
yeah, I don't think that you're going to be in any danger of me melting your robot. So we won't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's, you know, it's funny because this event is just over and then it's going to be real close to the August and September. It's not that far away. So it, you know, once one gets done, then the other one's going to be coming real soon.
I know. Yeah. I think that's my like biggest learning is like once you're done, like just rebuild and get ready for the next competition. Because for a while, like I was hitting like 1 month, next month, like there were always all these competitions. And it's a lot. Like if you're like, oh, let me take like a week off, let me like chill for a minute, then you're like, oh my gosh, it's the night before. And then you're like, I gotta fully rebuild or like finish my robot. But yeah, there's like 2 competitions I went and I had to finish some stuff that morning. So never again. Like I always will go to the competition now with a fully working robot, can just like take it out of the little case and then like put it in the test box to like safety it. So that's definitely my biggest advice for people too, is like make sure it works before you go. So you're like fully dialed in. There's always going to be surprises and frustration, but the best that you can do is kind of do anything ahead of time to like get it ready. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to that. You know, we'll see how the rest of the year goes, but I think that it's awesome that, you know, you built a bot and that you're planning on building another bot, and, you know, hopefully we'll see a lot more from you and Team Shreddit.
Yeah. Oh, it's been awesome. Honestly, all the guys on Team Shreddit and Evan especially, like they're all so awesome. And I guess I can tell you, like, this is the funny story of how I joined Shreddit. It's
yes,
kind of funny.
Please
like,
let me know.
And feel free to ask any of the other questions you want, because there's so many fun behind the scenes things. But yeah, I went to Norwalk with Peter at New Bot Norwalk, like not this past one, but a year ago, or 2 years ago. Time is quick. And I had not seen the last season of BattleBots because I was in college. And then outside of college, like after, I was like, okay, I was going around doing my stuff, like not really like watching BattleBots. So I had not seen like who the builders really were for the last like couple years. So I went in and I knew nobody. Like I was like, hi, I'm Alicia, like just chatting with people. I had no idea these people were like BattleBots, like on TV, like all like woo. But my mom was like a diehard BattleBots fan. And so like I was, you know, going around the pits with her and she was like, oh my gosh, like this person, let's go talk to them. And I was like, okay. So like we would go and talk to people. And I was just like, they're just another person. But my mom was like, oh my gosh, they're on BattleBots. I like did not know who these people were, which I feel like they're probably gonna watch this and be like, oh my gosh. But I also did not know who Evan was. And my mom was like, I had just moved, like literally like a month before, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved to Jersey City. So I was like, just recently here, was like, oh, I wonder if there's like robots to get involved with around here. Lo and behold, Norwalk. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, I think that's the guy who like lives in New York. She's like, he's on BattleBots. And I was like, okay. So we like walked over to talk to Evan. And I was like, hey, how are you? I'm Alicia. I take pictures. And it was like kind of like I just did not, I think like most of the time, like people recognize who he is. So they're like, Evan Arias, like BattleBots captain, Pain Train. And I was just like, hi. It was like, what the heck? But no, it was like a good conversation. And then I was like, yeah, if you guys ever need like social media stuff, like feel free. Like I'm, just moved to the East Coast. Like I'm on Horizon this year, but like I can help out. So anyways, then I joined Shreddit, which was just kind of funny. It was like super random. And I don't know if on our first team meeting, we talked about like food until like 2 a.m. Like the best food we'd eaten. Cause there's a lot of like foodies on Shreddit. Um, with like Alex is like a chef and Brandon like loves food. So it was really interesting getting to know everybody. And then I like pitted and like went out to Norwalk with Evan and G. And yeah, like I guess was like I got to know everybody super well, helped with like their build of Shreddit Bro for BattleBots, which was fun. At Norwalk, we went out for like a weekend and just like built the entire robot or most of it. But I think the funniest part is like actually like meeting Evan for the first time was like very random, like super. I had no idea who he was. It was just like a weird thing. But it was like, I guess it was like a good meet cute, but like, yeah, it was pretty funny. So that's my favorite story to tell about it.
That is funny because how could you not know the second most charming man in BattleBots? Because the only person who is more charming than Evan is Craig Danby. So, and
Oh
I
my
know
gosh.
Evan agrees with that.
Okay, no, that's it. Yeah, I know he's definitely said that. And it was funny at BattleBots. He like I was like, oh, can you take some pictures of like me when we go out for fighting with Horizon because they had fought before. And I think he took. I don't know if he wants me to say this. He took pictures with literally every single person at BattleBots. He was like, "Oh my gosh, the ref! Oh my gosh, like the judge! Oh my gosh!" Like he like took pictures with random fans. Craig Danby was one of the people. Like I have a selfie of Evan and Craig Danby on my phone. He took like 500 pictures. It was a lot, but it was hilarious. Definitely, definitely an awesome guy.
Yes, for sure. Well, I think that that's so cool to hear that story. I always love like finding out how people get in with teams or how teams get together because they're always fun stories.
Yeah, it is really funny. And then I don't know. Anyways, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because had I not ever gone to Norwalk, I probably would not have like met Evan and like definitely would not have joined Shreddit. Definitely like I don't know. It's fun. It's like it's I don't know. It's like it's a cute story. We are dating now, which is kind of funny too. So if anybody didn't know that, that was also a funny story because it was after BattleBots or the last night of BattleBots, and he was like, "Do you want to go out?" And I was like, "I'll think about it," because I just like did not register. But yeah, I feel like there's so many. I have so many funny stories about Evan.
Well, we will save those, but since one of these times, like maybe I'm gonna have you and Evan come on and just like go wild.
Oh my god, that would be honestly like so one of the questions that he wrote like is this Dominican song and it's like what I got the beast too sperry something like that, but like I feel like it's just very chaotic when like the two of us are just talking because sometimes one of us like bursts into song. It's just like a like very interesting. I feel like it would be an interesting episode. Definitely you would not know what you were gonna get. Could like sing, could dance, could I don't know, tell funny stories.
Yes. Actually, I have a great idea. I'm not going to share it here yet because
Oh no.
I just have this awesome idea, but we will have to see if we can execute this at some point in
Oh
the
my god.
future.
Oh
Um,
my god.
but I will wrap things up there before I get
Okay,
too
great.
excited about my ideas. And just, for everyone that's watching, if you want to see my idea in the future, then you need to make sure that you like and subscribe and all of that good stuff, and keep watching the show, because who knows what else I'm going to come up with. But yes, so everybody just, enjoy and keep watching the show and keep supporting combat robotics.
Awesome.